I do thank you for giving me just a minute of your time here at Nooga Radio. How are you doing? I hope your weekend and your extended couple days was good for you and yours. Did you get things done? I did. I did some mowing. I spent a lot of time in my home office getting caught up on paperwork, shuffling papers back and forth, looking at investments and mail, bills, and taking care of things of that kind. Also doing some writing. The story this morning at Nooganomics.com, I think you'll want to read here at the end of the tenure of Fred Fletcher, and that is an exciting narrative about Hanson Melvin. Hanson Melvin is suing Officer David Campbell and other John Doe officers, and also city government for what he says is not a rogue cop. He and his attorney Clay Whitaker are saying that his abuse was not that of a rogue cop, someone who violated the rules and someone who just didn't do what he was supposed to, but in fact took part in a false arrest, a kind of a kidnapping, a state kidnapping of an innocent man. As part of a policy. The policy may have been unstated, but because there was a conspiracy in the ranks of the police officers to harass this defendant, there is a clear indication that police officers in Chattanooga are willing to cover for their own and uphold the blue honor code on behalf of members who are not the worst, right? The worst officers, if there is one in Chattanooga, he will not in the end be supported by his officers by the blue code of silence. But those whose offenses are not unto death or not unto something extremely objectionable, they will be protected by their fellows, and that is the argument made in the lawsuit. You can find out more about what Hanson Melvin says at Nooganomics.com. He's writing about an event that took place May 29, and then the next morning, after he had been taken to jail, he was arriving at his apartment complex, Northgate Crossing, here in Hickson, just near the mall, and he was in a car with a friend. Collier Holmes is his name. Collier had paid the bond to get him out of jail on a disorderly conduct charge, which was false. It was a charge resting upon a perjured police report and then later perjured testimony before the grand jury. They were sitting in his car when suddenly they were surrounded, as the complaint filing indicates. They were surrounded by 5 or 6 police cars, and at least that many officers. They were grabbed out of their car, forced out, and then they were searched and questioned separately. And it was a remarkable show of force of a man who just been freed from the Hamilton County Jail downtown and had arrived home. And this is a form of intimidation. And the fact that this encounter that involved several officers, as many as 8 officers, who made private arrangements by their private cell phones and not on the official channel to intimidate Hanson Melvin, that is really a remarkable thing. And that it didn't come up, that there was not an internal investigation to uncover all these officers and how they got there, because they were there on public business, right? You may have made the arrangements privately, but your dispatcher certainly knew where you were and why you showed up. They said that, well, someone had reported someone there with a crowbar. Well, what's that? What's that mean? People have crowbars all the time. You're fixing your car. You're picking up something you left out from the night before. That in itself is not a crime, and that is not in itself sufficient to bring 5 or 6 or even 8 officers to investigate. Right? That's not something that's very serious. And yet there they were, harassed, and Hanson Melvin said, "Why are you harassing me? What is this about?" And David Campbell had friends in the department, and they were willing to at least help him check out this man whom David Campbell evidently clearly knew he had wronged. He knew he had wronged him. And Hanson Melvin, sitting in the cruiser on the way to jail, spoke very graciously in a very Christian way to this man. And he said, you've wronged me. I've done nothing wrong. I've not broken any law. And I was not guilty of anything even remotely close to disorderly conduct, which is the charge. Disorderly conduct, by the way, is an unconstitutionally vague statute. There are 4 or 5 provisions of that statute which are impossible to obey. Or actually, there are 2. 2 of the 5, I think 5 provisions of that statute are impossible to obey. They're unconstitutionally vague. And the reason that this statute has not been overturned is no one has fought it. The only way you can fight it, of course, is by having an attorney. And who charged with such a crime has an attorney to pay for that, right? So that's why this harassing statute is used for poor people and common people, and many black people, I would say, subjected to harassment charges under that title of the Tennessee Code. And so this is the charge against Hanson Melvin. He was indicted again because David Campbell testified consistently with his initial report that Hanson screamed at him and so on, and made a spectacle out of himself at the scene of the arrest. But that is not at all what happened. The tape of that encounter was very quiet, and Hanson Melvin speaking in ordinary conversational tones, saying, I'm not going to give you my driver's license, and I'm not going to give you my social security number. That's none of your business. Those defiant acts by an uppity black, right, got him arrested. And the fact that Hanson Melvin's black is secondary. The main offense is that the officer acted without probable cause. Probable cause is your defense. You're my listener's defense from any negative encounter with an officer. He can't touch you. He can't talk to you. He can't question you. He can't waylay you, detain you, unless he has probable cause. That's in the Constitution, state and federal. And in this encounter, there was simply no reasonable suspicion even that Hanson Melvin had done anything remotely wrong. He was just walking toward the store with Collier Holmes late at night to get something for his wife. He's a young married man, 2 children she was expecting. And get this, the day that Hanson Melvin had to go to criminal court in Judge Don Poole's court, his wife gave birth. He could not even be at the hospital for the birth of his 3rd child because of lies told against him, actions made against him in a conspiracy, in a police officer conspiracy, according to the lawsuit against Hanson Melvin. Now, this story is at Nooganomics.com. It has not been reported elsewhere. And I'd say I'm glad to have it first. And you'll find it only at Nooganomics.com, the website for the man who matters. And the argument that Clay Whitaker, probably the best attorney in town, makes in this case is that David Campbell is not a loose cannon, right? He's not the wild card. He, in fact, his manner of dealing with people, his anger at people, his explosive encounter with another defendant named William Boston, I think his name is, in 2012. The fact that these were accepted, and the fact that David Campbell, though he was fired for running his car at 100 miles an hour on city streets at night, that his actions are part of the culture of the police department. And that is why here, David Tulis, that I call for police reform. Now, this abuse of Hanson Melvin, as described today at Nooganomics.com, as typical, is but a part of the need for reform in policing. Policing reform needs to be extensive, and it needs to be extensive, touching on another area, one of equal importance, if not of greater importance, and that is the loss of life. We need to have in the police department in Chattanooga a respect for the image of God. Now, if you're a Roman Catholic, you would say that would be respect for the sanctity of life. I don't think that life has sanctity, but I would say that life deserves to be protected. Human life needs to be scrupulously protected. And those people who are destroyed in their lives, whose lives are taken from them, have to be first convicted of a capital offense. That is the only way that an officer can take the life of another person. That there's a conviction of a capital offense. In other words, an offense worthy of death, right? That would be that could be everything from adultery, depending on your statutory framework, adultery, murder, rape, and the like. These are death penalty offenses, at least in the scriptures, right? At least since we're here celebrating the 4th of July, in all the colonies, buggery and sodomy, for example, were capital offenses. Sodomy, well, you know what that is, and buggery, well, you know what that is too. Those were capital offenses. And though we have gotten away from the law of God as the basis of equity and justice, we now have states and national governments that care nothing about justice, but rather about security, right? They've shifted their focus to security. We have the security state abusing common people, and constitutions really are not enough. Constitutions seem to be inadequate to the defense of common folk, such as Hanson Melvin and his wife. She's part of the suit too, claiming loss of consortium, and that's an important right, an important violation as well. And the ideas of this case suggest that there is an overall atmosphere that disregards you, my listener. And if you, my listener, happen to be black and happen to be in your late 20s or maybe early 30s, even more so. I ask young black men I meet, say at the garage or in some venue, I say, you mind if I ask you a question? How many times have you been stopped? Well, the answer often is between 20 and 30. Hanson Melvin says he's been stopped more than 30 times. We have a new city councilman. And I asked him this question a few days ago. Well, actually, last Tuesday, 2 Tuesdays ago, and he told me he's been stopped between 20, 30, 40, 50. There's so many times he's been stopped by police, he couldn't tell me, Anthony, he couldn't tell me the number of times. And I said, well, that hasn't happened to me. Why has it happened to you? Well, we have a problem in Chattanooga, and it's a problem that's worldwide, and it's an American problem in many cities. And so what has to happen, I think, is there needs to be a care in the policing function where there is the common spirit brought back, right? A cop is a citizen on patrol. COP, citizen on patrol. That's what cops were. But then when they became professional and then they came under civil service standards, they became alienated from the people. They're no longer citizens. They are a special occupation force. They're a special military, paramilitary force, vertically integrated. They have special privileges. They have special protections in the law, and they are an elite. They are an elite, and the fact that they have been unrestrained for decades, but now there's a major change. That they have been unrestrained for decades is really to the shame of American people, that we allow what I would call, or like to call, statutorily permitted extrajudicial summary executions of people. And I think of Javario Eagle, the most recent case here in Chattanooga of that. Even though he had a weapon, he did not have to be mowed down as he was by officers in a scene that could only exacerbate the sense of bewilderment, the sense of being corralled by a person who may not have been, as he perhaps was not, in his right mind, who may have been having what you could call a mental episode or something in his way of thinking at that moment with his daughter at the doorway in the government housing project, shot down. He didn't have to die, and the way the police dealt with that individual made it really, in effect, necessary to kill him. Right, and the whole police training system requires the death sentence. It really requires it. It makes it inevitable that it will happen. In the nearest jurisdiction of Chattanooga that's had a remarkable case of this kind is East Ridge, which has the Stevenson execution of Todd Browning, the plumber. That was August of 2016. And if you want to read about that, just go to Nooganomics.com, the website about local economy and the free market, the website that has a very optimistic and positive view of the future, but has of late been looking at the question of police abuse, something that has come in God's providence to our attention as violative of the economy, the local economy spirit. Right, in the local economy spirit, you are glad to be here, and there is a great humanity in it, because this concept of lococentrism, even nougacentrism, is in my presentation of it a kind of biblical theme, right? It is a fruit of the gospel. There is, in the idea of local economy, great care given to individuals, and that's why local economy, I think, is so attractive to people as an idea, because after all, I don't just cover business news, right? I'm not covering the economy or the local economy. David Tulis here. No, I cover the idea of local economy. Love your neighbor, buy local, and the axioms, if you will, the main points of our report here on the David Tulis Show is: near is better than far, small is better than big, and simple than complex. And down in the footnotes, where even there in 5-point type, the good people in Washington will make war against the truth, right? They make war against humanity and against the truth. We say back, we fire back, and we say, no, personal is better than corporate, and physical is better than abstract. These are the claims made by my chief sponsor here at the David Tulis Show, and that is Nooganomics.com. Nooganomics.com. There's I need to get back to this this report about TCRS, the Tennessee Consolidated Retirement System, which is worth more than the state itself. There's a pending pension crisis across the country, where pension systems run by state governments for retirees, hugely overpaid unionized retirees, are facing collapse. They're facing collapse in Illinois. The pension debt, the pension overhang, is $126 billion. There is a $15 billion outright debt and non-payment by that state government, which I think just yesterday has passed a budget. There was an override of the governor's veto of the budget, and the Democrats overrode that. So there is now, for the first time in 2 years, in that beleaguered state home of President Obama, there is a state budget, but it has $126 billion in pension obligations. And Moody's says, according to Doug Casey in his website, $1.8 trillion in underfunding around the country for pension plans. And I wanted to get to that, but the neat fact is that Tennessee may not have the same disaster as in other states, because the TCRS net position, the Tennessee Consolidated Retirement System, has a net position of $43.3 billion. That's $43.3 billion. And state government is poorer than that. State government that has most of its assets tied up in non-liquid things, such as infrastructure and structures and improvements, machinery, construction in progress, and land. Its net position is $33.87 billion, and of that, 83% is capital assets. Now, in Tennessee, just by the way, governmental activities take up the most of the net position, $31.3 billion, and business activities are less, perhaps, than in other states, where the government is business partner, right? Government as capitalist, government as leading mover of capital, leading mover of business and profit seeking. In Tennessee, that is only $2.54 billion. So the total primary net position of government is $33.872 billion. So again, $33 billion and another $0.872 billion. That's the total capital position of state government. The state's retirement system is much bigger than the government itself. It is a sovereign wealth fund, a sovereign liquid capital investment fund, tax-free. It is a tax-free business, and that is why we are, we're very confident. But you have to remember, this is a second government economy. It is not the free market economy. Government owns most, I'd say probably most of Wall Street. Government entities, government organizations, CalPERS, the California Retirement Plan, and other government entities own much of capitalism today in the name of retirees and in the name of their peoples. That's why I'm not confident about the governmental economy, right? We have a government economy. We have a state economy. We don't have in the United States, we don't have a free market. A free market would give everybody an equal chance. You wouldn't have such giant players that can manipulate the way things look. And even though they're bound by these accounting rules to report their positions, they in the buying and selling of assets, whether it's debt or parking lots or businesses or shares or sovereign debt for other countries, they are they're not bound by the real market, the real economy. So is there a secret surprise ahead for retirees in the state? It's not a secret anymore.
The Tennessee Valley's news, talk, and sports leader. Nooga Radio, AM 1240 and 92.7 FM.
Do I need to talk with you?